And hi everyone, thank you for joining us this morning and taking time out of your day. So I'm the HR/people/OD lead at Investors in People. Totally passionate about all things mental health and wellbeing at work. I'm very excited to be here today talking to Adam about the wonderful things that he's been doing. And I must say, I have to admit, I'm not actually by the beach, despite what my background may show. It is very grey and rainy here, just outside London, but I thought this was a much nicer thing to look at. Over to you, Adam.
Brilliant, thank you, Beth. Yes, hello everyone, thank you for joining us. Hopefully this will be an interesting discussion for you all. My name's Adam Hutchinson. I'm from a company called Gaudio Awards. We are the design and manufacturer of bespoke event trophies and presentation plaques. We supply to high-end sporting events, motor events like the FIA, corporate events. We do all of the recognition works for corporates like Coca-Cola. We also do a lot of very high-end TV appearance trophies like the MasterChef. I started Gaudio 14 years ago in my spare bedroom, working out of my dad's garage. Over the last 14 years, we've had good growth year on year to a pre-coronavirus level of 30 employees. Last year, I think we had the great enjoyment of winning the Investors in People Small Business of the Year award. We're a great company and we have an even better team behind us.
So I'm very keen today that the session feels a bit like having a little window into a conversation rather than anything overly formal. But I think the clue is in the title right now. Wellbeing really does need to be a top priority. I think especially as we're starting to feel now like some sort of normal is returning. It might be new and it's definitely different, but we're getting there. But of course, apart from the obvious direct impacts that coronavirus has had, there are other much deeper, longer term health impacts that also need addressing. And that's around mental health, but also physical health and social health. So I think in the early days of the pandemic and from the subsequent lockdown, we saw a significant impact on our well-being. I'm sure you've seen some of these statistics, but before COVID, perhaps 1 in 10 adults were experiencing some form of depression. But in June 2020, that rose to 1 in 5, with feelings of stress and anxiety rising sharply as well. And it's interesting that the research that goes across every demographic, young, old, different social backgrounds, all of the studies are echoing this. And actually, around 80% of people are now saying that their mental health has got worse since the pandemic hit. So I think I see it a lot with the organisations that we work with. Mental health is rightly so high on the agenda, but equally, it's not just mental health that's been affected, it's also physical and social health. So I know from personal experience, I'm sure many of you will be the same, there's perhaps been a bit of a weight gain that's resulted from the lockdown, from a combination of just less activity, perhaps more snacking, and sleep disturbance. So that's another piece to look at. And of course, from the social perspective, we found from our community, 2 in 3 employers are concerned about their people's social well-being, whether that's because social distancing has meant that they can't connect to their family and friends, or perhaps they've been relying on coming to work for that kind of community feeling and social connection that we all need to thrive. So lots to think about, lots to work on. And what on earth can employers do about all this? Well, I'm hoping, and I know, that Adam will have lots of great tips for us from his experiences as the owner and managing director of Gaudio Awards. So over to you, Adam. How's it been over the last few months?
One word, I'd say challenging. We went from expecting to have a record year. We've been achieving over 15% growth year on year for the last 4 years. And I really couldn't be happy with what the team was achieving and how we're all pulling together and working in the same direction. We were firing on all cylinders, and we were in the process of signing for a new building that we were about to have customized to our exact requirements. I think because our company supplies to the events industry, that we felt the knock-on, the effect of the pending lockdown quite early on in March. And we went from, over a matter of days of planning for the future to, effectively planning for survival. The hardest part of that being the lack of knowledge of what was going to happen for myself, for the company, and all of the employees. Watching the marketplace just disappear effectively was a really hard pill to chew. However, due to, I think, the hard work and great customers that we have, the company has fared extremely well, a lot better than I first expected in the first few days of realizing what was going on. And it's actually been a good downtime for us to look at how we do things, how we can better improve the customer experience. And it's shaken us out of our slightly more regimented way of, my employees have to be there from 9 to 5 because that's when my customers expect the phones to be answered, or certain jobs, look, everyone has to work from the office, to a lot more flexible approach. Our employees have been very flexible with us over the last 6 months, and I think that's now been built into the infrastructure of the business.
Fantastic. Yeah, and that's definitely something that I've heard talking to our clients as well. Whenever there's a great period of uncertainty, of course, it's very difficult to manage, but it can also throw up some opportunities, and perhaps that almost like that sense check on things that you've always done because you've always done them a certain way, but actually there are ways to do things better, perhaps more flexibly or better for the team. So I'm interested in this kind of time of great uncertainty. How have you maintained a sense of team spirit and connection?
It's been tough. It really has been tough. Everyone very much enjoys, and I pride myself on how much people enjoy coming to work and how much fulfillment everyone gets from the interaction. Our office is constantly filled with laughter all the time. And for that to be taken away from everyone has been, I think, a challenging thing. As it felt like back in March that the whole world was imploding on ourselves, where we're all fearful for our health and our livelihoods. The biggest thing was the lack of knowledge. In the early days of the lockdown, not knowing what was going on, I think back to before the furlough scheme had even been announced. It was hard to maintain a solid level of communication with our employees, because we just didn't know what to say. But as soon as the cloud started to clear a bit and we had a bit of an idea of what was going on, trying to give them the regular updates of where the company was, what we were doing. And I think that very much helped with maintaining the team spirit. To kind of give everyone an idea, we were 30 staff strong and 28 went on to furlough, leaving myself and my finance director left working. For me, that was a bit of a godsend, because I was thrown back into working 12-hour days on every aspect of the business, from quoting, design and manufacturing, and I quite enjoyed it. It reminded me of the early days of when I had started the business in my dad's garage. It was, for me, with respect to mental health, it was a godsend, because it gave me something to focus on, something to be proactive about. But then you start to realise that my employees don't have that. They're sat at home, locked down, nothing to do. A big chunk of their day has been taken away from them. So I think team spirit was really driven by just trying to keep open communication. And in the end, we started to have a very informal communication with everyone through Microsoft Teams, just about, where we are, what's going on, allowing us to all kind of enjoy the wins that we were getting during lockdown. I think that really helped with the team spirit. bringing everyone back from furlough and now everyone is back into the company, it's really been a sense of joy for me to see how everyone's come back together and just molded and started working together. Everyone seems to be taking on their element of the business and trying to adapt it for the new situation and improve it. Definitely everyone's taken a lot more ownership of their roles within the business, and I think that we are starting to flourish because of it. I remember one point really sticks out in my mind when I brought the first two people back into the company. They have both been on furlough for 3 months, and they were coming back in to set up the offices and the production to make it COVID safe. They came in, spent 2 hours just finding out what we had to do and how we had to do it, and then literally kicked me out of the company with the statement, you know, you've done enough over the last 3 months, go home and relax. And that was, for me personally, you know, really echoed the team spirit that we have within the business. You know, luckily it's something that we focused on prior to COVID, so we did have that strong team in the first place. Over to you, Beth.
I absolutely love that story. Yeah, and I think you're probably pretty typical of what lots of businesses are experiencing at the moment as well, and starting to have a new phase of change, which is bringing people back into physical workplaces and having to kind of make that adjustment as well. How's that been playing out for you?
There's definitely a loss of nerves with a lot of people. A lot of people are very nervous about coming back into work, and when you've been sat in your isolation in your very small bubble, trying to break down people's concerns, but not being understanding when, not being understanding when people do have these concerns. We still allow people to work flexibly. We still have some people who are working from home and very effectively. And we have some people that are flitting between the two, backwards and forwards. Generally, it is always due to concerns to do with health. They're either living with elderly parents or they have their own health concerns. But I think just being open and understanding with employees, I'm generally finding as soon as they step back into the company, they realise what they're missing, and everyone wants to come back and be there and be part of the team and enjoy the atmosphere.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm sure that's definitely useful for people as they start navigating those changes too. So yeah, I guess looking back over the last few months, obviously you mentioned that you did have people out of the office on furlough. How did you kind of provide ongoing support to them during that time?
As I mentioned before, it was mainly through Microsoft Teams. There were a number of employees that I felt that were slightly more concerned than others, whether they be that way disposed or just new to the company and had only been with us for 3 months. So there were a number of staff that I picked up the phone on a regular basis, just to have an informal chat with them about how things are in their life. You know, just I think I've probably got to know more about my team's home life over the lockdown than I did prior to it. I think people probably, you know, I have a very long-standing team. A lot of my employees started working for me for 12, 13 years ago, and very talented and very good at what they do. But I think as newer people came into the company, probably my personal side, my personal relationships with them hadn't grown and hadn't been fostered. And I'd like to think that over this, that people have got to know me more as a person, not as a boss. Really supporting them though was the key is just information. I know personally for me, the anxiety and stress that I was feeling was the lack of knowledge. The second we had a plan of action and something that we could actually work through, the stress levels rapidly decreased. So recognizing that and trying to pass the same sort of information on to people, I hope helped them.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember when we've spoken previously, you said that when the lockdown was announced by the government, it was actually almost a relief having some certainty after seeing what was coming on the horizon.
We were working 2 weeks ahead of the rest of the country, and I have quite strong links to Spain, and I could see Spain being locked down 2 weeks prior. And I was almost sat there waiting, counting the days until they actually announced the lockdown. And the second they did, it was kind of like, thank God the rest of the economy is now in the same situation that we feel we've been in for the last 2 weeks. I think the biggest sense of relief was when the government released the furlough scheme. Prior to the furlough scheme being released, there was a very large question mark of effectively how much is it going to cost me to keep everyone employed over the next 6 months. And the furlough scheme definitely took a lot of the financial burden off the business, and thus a lot of stress off myself.
Perfect. And coming back to the central theme of this session, why do you think businesses should be putting even more of a focus on well-being now in this kind of I guess later stage of response to the pandemic?
Yeah, I'd like to think that I understood, but definitely more so now, that the health and well-being of our team has an impact on the success of the business. They come hand in hand. Whether people are facing challenges at home or whether it's in the office, it directly affects all aspects of the business, from the moods, the efficiency within the business. It just has a ripple effect throughout. I thought we were always good at maintaining quite a good, healthy environment for everyone for the team to be able to grow, and had a very strong culture of acceptance within the business to allow different people to thrive and feel at home within the business, no matter what background they're from, what interests they're involved with. I've learned a lot about Morris dancing over a few years from one employee, strangely, something I never thought I would know about. I think one thing though I never really put much bearing on was my own health and well-being. Stress for me was always a tool. I'm getting stressed, so buckle down and work harder, and work faster, and work through it. I don't think I paid much attention to the effects that had on the people around me, from my family to my employees. And I think I realise that now. I think there has to be a strong focus on everyone within the organisation, but also a strong focus on yourself, and to ensure that there are people within the organisation that feel empowered to turn around to any of the managers, directors, owners, whatever, and say, maybe you need to step back a little bit and just chill, relax, trust us, and we'll deal with this. I was almost forced by my financial director to go and take a holiday, and I've just gone back from a couple of weeks in Spain, and then a couple of weeks of isolation afterwards. Yesterday was my first day back into the company, and you'd expect as the MD to be walking into a whole host of problems and issues and jobs to do. My first job was to go and get some milk, because we'd run out of some milk. My second one was to do some printing for accounts, and my third was sitting there sticking some investors and people stickers on some products that we're currently going to be shipping for you. So there was, been stepping away from the business for effectively 4 weeks after this whole crisis, and walking back and seeing that absolutely everybody has done their job, gone above and beyond, and I've walked into a perfectly running business was really good, and makes me realise that I can trust my team even more than I thought.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point. And I know trust has come up a lot in a lot of the conversations around kind of working from home, but I do feel like it's almost the kind of magic ingredient that's made a difference during this time. And your experience with stress, you know, it totally resonates with me as well. I've always thought I'm quite sort of good under pressure, but I've never been in such a sustained period of pressure like we've had over the last few months. And it definitely does, it ripples out obviously to your family environment. So I think the key for me has been learning how to manage my energy rather than my time, you know, so make sure that I'm doing certain things earlier on in the morning when I've got kind of a fresh head, and then actually taking breaks during the day rather than just trying to keep powering through, because I definitely don't do my best work when I'm trying to take that approach. So what do the next 3 to 6 months look like for you?
Well, the events industry is still very much living day to day. We have no solid guidance of when our industry can open. We were told business events can start in the start of October, proviso some trials, some live trials, which haven't happened yet. We're probably not going to have our marketplace back until early next year. I think this is the lockdown would have had a year's effect on the industry. And I'm sure it'll have lasting ripples for a long time. We're quite lucky. We have some very all of our clients are very long standing with us, and we have a lot of very international clients. So we've been surprised that we've come back to orders where we're shipping off to every country apart from the UK. So the company has bounced back in a considerably stronger position than I initially anticipated. But I think over the next 3 to 6 months, it's going to be used to the extra capacity that we have within the business, because we're obviously not turning over anywhere near what we were. It's going to be used to implement new CRM systems to streamline the process properly. We had started as a new business about 3 months prior to lockdown, which actually did remarkably well during lockdown. There's going to be more focus on that, and we also have a new offering to the marketplace that we want to do, to the awards marketplace that we're wanting to release. So there's going to be a lot of work on those. So when the industry is back, we will hopefully bounce back stronger than ever.
Fantastic. And I'm sure that kind of sense of optimism and looking to the future is helpful for your team as well, to give them a little bubble of certainty in quite an uncertain world.
And I think a bubble of excitement as well.
Yeah, and that's important, isn't it, to keep looking for positives in the future as well, because there definitely has been a lot of sort of negative press.
Yeah.
And just finally, before we invite some questions from the audience, what is your best advice to our listeners, many of whom will be in the same sort of position as yourself?
Well, I think, I assume a lot of people listening are in a level of management or directors level or business owners. You know, everyone has got into this position within their career by having something about them, by working hard, by being dedicated or loving what they do. You know, I think we have to remember that building a business, maintaining a business for always is just a constant learning curve. And over the last 5 months, the rate of lessons has been unprecedented. I remember right at the start of lockdown, I was told by someone very close to me who had lost their first company in the recession some 20 years ago, that when he looks back on this, losing everything was actually one of the best things that he did, or that happened to him. They managed to rebuild the business with all of the lessons already learned, and the company has now expanded to a level that they never expected. At the time, when I was told that, it most certainly did not want to hear that there could be some positives coming out of the whole country being locked down and the whole marketplace, or everyone's marketplace, just being closed. but I can look back on it now and actually see that, not yet, but in the future, there will be some positives that have come out from this for the business. I think 3 lessons that I will take to heart is that employees and their personal well-being is of highest importance ahead of the company's financial success. The financial success of the business is just a byproduct of doing a really good job, and to do that, everyone has to enjoy what they're doing. Flexibility and speed to adapt promotes success. I think we had to change very quickly, and also the way we're operating now has had to change, working not just with our employees in having to work from home, but also working with our clients and offering them extra services above and beyond to try to make their life a little bit easier. And also, the last lesson is, I think no matter what barriers are put in front of you, if you break them down step by step, that anything can be achieved. Initially, when lockdown was announced, I'm not sure if it felt like a brick wall in front of me or a cliff, but either way, it was something that initially felt that I couldn't surmount. But step by step, working at it, you can get there, you can achieve anything.